The following story is a translated and adapted conversation, recounting supernatural experiences from around the world. This content is intended for entertainment purposes only. Listen with an open mind and enjoy the thrill of the unknown. The content in this video is purely for entertainment. Viewer discretion is advised. If you are easily frightened, be prepared some stories might just send chills down your spine. If you're ready, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and immerse yourself in the world of the unexplained. Amentet, the goddess of the afterlife. In the vast deserts of ancient Egypt, where golden tombs glisten beneath the scorching sun, a shadow lingers in the world of the living. She is neither mortal nor fully divine, an entity that walks between realms. Her name is Amentet, the goddess of the afterlife. Legends whisper that those who see her are marked for death. She does not bring mercy, nor does she bring pain. She simply waits, and when the moment comes, she reaches out her hand, guiding lost souls into the unknown. But what happens when someone refuses to follow her? The year is 1897. A group of archaeologists set up camp deep within the Valley of the Kings. Among them is Dr. Elias Carter, a man obsessed with unraveling the mysteries of the Egyptian underworld. For weeks, the excavation had been slow until one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a worker unearthed something strange. A stone tablet, covered in ancient hieroglyphs. At its center, a figure was carved with chilling detail. A woman with an elaborate headdress, standing at the threshold of a great doorway. Her eyes hollow, lifeless, staring into the abyss. She is Amentet, an old Egyptian guide mutters. His voice trembles. The queen of the western horizon. Dr. Carter scoffs. A goddess, or just another myth? But the old man does not laugh. Instead, he backs away from the tomb's entrance and refuses to return. That night, the first death occurs. Ancient Egyptians believed in an afterlife, but not all souls found their way to peace. Amentet, the silent watcher of the underworld, was said to appear only to those standing at the edge of life and death. Her task was simple: to guide the souls of the deceased into the next world. She was neither cruel nor kind, only inevitable. But there was one warning etched into the walls of many tombs. Do not look into her eyes. If you do, your soul will belong to her. For centuries, the warning was just a story, until now. As the expedition continues, more men fall ill, their bodies weak, their breaths shallow. Some wake in the middle of the night, gasping for air, eyes filled with terror. One man, a young assistant named Daniel, stumbles into the main tent, his face ashen with fear. She was there, he whispers, at the edge of my bed. Dr. Carter dismisses his fears as exhaustion, but then the whispers begin. At night, the men hear soft voices, not in any language they understand, but something ancient. The sound of footsteps echo through the empty corridors of the tomb, and then Daniel disappears. A frantic search ensues. By dawn, they find him, lying motionless at the tomb's entrance, his eyes wide open, staring at nothing. No wounds, no struggle, just gone. Dr. Carter kneels beside the body, shaken but determined. His hand trembles as he pulls something from the young man's grip. A piece of fabric, black, tattered silk. Cold to the touch, and then he feels it. A presence. Behind him, watching. He slowly turns his head just enough to glimpse a tall, shadowed figure standing at the edge of the doorway. A woman, draped in flowing black robes, her face obscured, except for her eyes. Two hollow voids, deep as death itself. The air grows heavy, suffocating, his vision blurs. Somewhere in the distance, a voice whispers, "It is time." The curse lives on. Dr. Carter is found the next morning, unconscious but alive. He refuses to speak of what he saw. He refuses to return to the tomb. The expedition is abandoned, and the entrance to the tomb is sealed forever. Years later, Carter is interviewed about the events in Egypt. His hair has turned ghostly white, his hands never stop shaking. When asked if he believes in the legend of Amentet, he says only one thing: "She waits for us all, and one day, she will come for me." A month later, he is found dead in his study, his eyes wide open, staring at nothing. Some say it was a heart attack, others believe something took him. And if the legend is true, then Amentet is still out there, waiting. Apep, the serpent demon. In the heart of ancient Egypt, where the Nile flows under the burning sun, a fear greater than any mortal ruler lurked in the darkness. A beast so powerful, so wicked, that even the gods feared its presence, its name. Apep, a monstrous serpent of chaos, sworn enemy of the sun god Ra. A force of eternal darkness, destined to devour the world. But what if I told you it never truly disappeared? What if Apep still lingers beneath the sands waiting? Western Desert, Egypt present day. The air is thick with dust as a group of archaeologists digs deep into an ancient tomb. Dr. Michael Rhodes, an expert in Egyptian mythology, wipes sweat from his brow. His team has just uncovered something unusual, a hidden chamber below the ruins of a lost temple. The walls are covered in hieroglyphs that seem to hiss in the flickering torchlight. One of the workers shudders. Doctor, these writings. They warn of something evil. Dr. Rhodes traces his hand over the carvings, reading aloud. Beware the serpent that sleeps beneath. Its hunger knows no end. A cold wind rushes through the tomb. The torches flicker. And from the darkness of the newly opened tunnel comes a deep, guttural hiss. In ancient times, Apep was believed to be an immortal force of destruction. Every night, as Ra guided the sun through the sky, Apep would rise from the underworld to swallow the light. Only through powerful spells and the strength of the gods was the serpent kept at bay. Egyptian priests would perform rituals every day to weaken Apep. They chanted curses, stabbed its image, and burned effigies to keep it trapped beneath the earth. But legends say if the rituals were ever forgotten, if the name of Apep was spoken aloud in its resting place, it would awaken. That night, as the team sets up camp, Dr. Rhodes cannot sleep. He keeps hearing something, a soft slithering sound just outside his tent. The wind howls through the desert, but beneath it, there is another noise. A whispering hiss, like something ancient and hungry. He steps out with a flashlight. The sand is moving, shifting, as if something is crawling beneath it. Then, a scream echoes from the excavation site. Dr. Rhodes and his team rush to the tomb. Inside, one of the workers is missing. Only his flashlight remains, flickering on the stone floor. The shadows in the chamber seem to pulse and twist. The walls, once solid, now appear to breathe as if something inside them is alive. Then, from the darkness of the tunnel, two giant, glowing eyes snap open. A massive form uncoils from the abyss. Black scales, thicker than armor. Fangs as long as swords. Apep has awakened. It lunges forward, its enormous mouth gaping wide. The team screams, scrambling to escape as the tomb begins to collapse. Dr. Rhodes stares in horror. This is not just a legend. Apep is real, and now it is free. At sunrise, the excavation site is silent. No sign of Dr. Rhodes or his team. Only a massive crater where the tomb once stood, the only clue left behind. A single carving, newly etched into the stone. The serpent has risen, the sun will fall. Bastet, the cat guardian. For centuries, cats have been revered in Egypt, worshipped as sacred protectors of the home. But what if that protection could turn into a curse? What if the guardian of the house became its most fearsome enemy? There is an ancient belief. Respect the cat, and it will guard you. Dishonor it, and you will suffer. Some say that Bastet, the feline goddess, still watches. Some say she is still waiting to punish those who forget. The mysterious cat statue, Cairo, Egypt, present day. Inside an old antique shop, dimly lit by flickering lanterns, Emily Carter, an American tourist, browses through shelves of ancient relics. Among the artifacts, something catches her eye. A small black cat statue, its emerald eyes shimmering under the dusty light. "Ah, you have good taste," the shopkeeper says. His voice is low, almost a whisper. That is a statue of Bastet. She is a protector, but only if treated with respect. Emily chuckles. It's just a cat statue. I'll take it. The shopkeeper hesitates. Then, almost too softly to hear, he mutters, "Be careful with her." That night, she places the statue on her bedside table. And as she drifts to sleep, the cat's eyes seem to glow in the darkness. The wrath of Bastet. In ancient Egypt, Bastet was not just a goddess of protection, she was a guardian of vengeance. The faithful who honored her were blessed with safety. But those who harmed a cat, mocked her, or disrespected her were cursed. Some vanish, some were found clawed to death, and some were simply never seen again. Even today, whispers of her vengeful spirit still linger. A week later, strange things start happening in Emily's apartment. She wakes up to find deep scratch marks on her wooden floor as if claws had scraped against it. Her lights flicker, objects fall from shelves on their own. One night, she hears soft footsteps padding across her bedroom floor. She turns on the light, nothing is there, but the cat statue has moved. The cat's revenge. Emily wakes up in the middle of the night to a low growling sound. She turns over and freezes. A shadowy figure with glowing green eyes sits at the foot of her bed. It's tall, feline, with elongated claws, and its eyes burn with fury. The whispers begin. You took me from my home and you mocked me. Emily's breath quickens. She tries to move but she can't. A sharp pain tears across her arm as if invisible claws are raking through her skin. The cat's shadow lunges forward, and everything goes black. The next morning, Emily's apartment is silent. The door is unlocked, but Emily, gone. The only thing left on her bed is the cat statue. And now, its mouth is slightly open, as if it's grinning. Spirits of the Nile River, a lifeline of Egypt, has flowed for thousands of years, bringing both prosperity and death. Its waters have witnessed the rise of pharaohs, the fall of empires, and countless disappearances. Locals whisper of something lurking beneath the surface, something unseen, yet always watching. The spirits of the Nile, they say if you walk too close to the water at night, you may hear whispers. Soft, sorrowful voices calling your name. And if you listen too closely, you may never return. The year is 1904. In a small Egyptian village along the Nile, the nights are eerily quiet. The only sound is the slow, rhythmic flow of the river. One evening, Omar, a young fisherman, prepares his boat. The moon hangs low, casting silver light across the dark waters. His mother warns him, "Do not go near the river after sundown." But the fish are plentiful at night, and Omar is stubborn. He ignores the warnings and pushes off into the silent current. For hours, all is well. Then he hears it. A voice, soft, distant, calling his name. Omar comes closer, his hands tremble. He turns but sees nothing. Just the endless, black water stretching into the darkness. Then, something touches his ankle, cold, wet, pulling him down. The villagers find his boat drifting near the shore the next morning, empty. No sign of Omar. Just his fishing net, tangled in something long and black, like strands of hair. Spirits of the Nile. Ancient Egyptian myths speak of the Naiads, spirits that dwell within rivers and lakes. Some are protectors, guiding lost souls, but others, hunters. It is said that those who drown in the Nile do not rest. Their spirits remain trapped in the water, seeking new souls to join them. Some appear as beautiful figures, standing on the riverbank, their arms outstretched. Others remain unseen, lurking just beneath the surface, waiting for a lonely traveler to step too close. And when they do, they never escape. A month after Omar's disappearance, a British archaeologist named Thomas Reed arrives in the village. He is fascinated by the stories but dismisses them as superstition. One evening, while sketching the ruins near the river, he notices something. A woman standing at the water's edge. She is dressed in ancient Egyptian robes, her long black hair flowing like silk. Her face is pale, her eyes dark and hollow. Yet, she is beautiful. She does not move, she simply stands there, watching him. Curious, Thomas steps closer. The woman smiles, and then she vanishes. That night, Thomas is restless. The image of the woman haunts him, her eyes, that smile. Unable to shake the feeling, he returns to the river alone. The village is asleep, the moon is high, the water is still. Then he hears it. Thomas, the same voice, soft, beckoning. He turns and there she is, standing on the water. Her arms outstretched, her lips moving, though no sound escapes. His body moves on its own, one step, then another. The cold water rises to his knees, his waist, his chest. The whispers grow louder. And then a hand bursts from the water, grabbing his wrist with an iron grip. The last thing Thomas sees is her face, inches from his own. Her mouth opens, revealing black, endless voids where her eyes should be. And then darkness. Thomas Reed's body is never found. His journal washes ashore 3 days later, its pages waterlogged but still legible. The final entry reads, "I see her. She is waiting." Locals say his spirit now lingers by the river, another lost soul, whispering to those who wander too close. And if you ever hear your name carried on the wind, late at night, near the Nile, do not answer, because they are always listening. And they are always waiting. The Curse of Queen Hatshepsut. For centuries, the name Hatshepsut was almost erased from history. An Egyptian queen who ruled as a pharaoh, she was one of the most powerful women in the ancient world. But after her death, someone tried to wipe her name from existence, breaking her statues, defacing her temples, and ensuring her legacy was forgotten. Yet, those who tried to erase her suffered terrible fates. Some believe that her spirit still seeks vengeance, and those who dare to disturb her memory will pay the price. Valley of the Kings, Egypt, present day. Under the scorching sun, Dr. James Carter, an archaeologist, carefully dusts away layers of sand inside an ancient tomb. His team has just uncovered something shocking. A hidden chamber, sealed for thousands of years. Carved on the wall are faint hieroglyphs, barely visible. Dr. Carter traces his fingers over them and reads aloud, "She who dares to rule like a man shall never be erased." A gust of wind rushes through the chamber. The candles flicker. One of the workers gasps, pointing to something in the sand. A shattered statue of Hatshepsut lies broken at their feet, and suddenly the ground trembles beneath them. Historians say that after Queen Hatshepsut's death, her successor Thutmose III ordered that her name and images be destroyed. But soon after, he suffered strange misfortunes. His closest advisors died mysteriously. His armies faced defeat in battles they should have won, and his own health began to fail. Even today, those who disturb her tomb or legacy report strange accidents or worse. That night, Dr. Carter reviews his notes inside his tent. His laptop screen flickers, and then a single sentence appears on the screen, typed out by an unseen hand. "You should have left her in peace," he freezes. Then, outside, a shadow moves near the excavation site. One of his team members, Amira, calls out, her voice shaking. Dr. Carter, someone is standing by the tomb entrance. They turn on their flashlights, but there is no one there. Only the faint outline of footprints in the sand leading inside. As they step back inside the tomb, the air is thick and heavy as if something is watching them. Suddenly, the torches go out. Darkness swallows them whole. And then, a low whisper echoes through the chamber. "You cannot erase me." Dr. Carter feels something icy brush against his neck. He turns his flashlight, trembling, and sees her. A tall, shrouded figure, her face obscured by a golden headdress. Her eyes glow with fury, and in her outstretched hand, a broken statue of herself. The walls begin to crack. The ground shakes violently, and as the dust rises around them, the figure steps forward, reaching for them. At sunrise, the excavation site is abandoned. The tents are empty. The equipment is scattered in the sand as if everyone had fled in terror, but Dr. Carter's journal remains. The last entry, scrawled in shaky handwriting. "She cannot be erased. She is coming for us all." The Curse of the Pharaohs. Have you ever heard of the Curse of the Pharaohs? A chilling legend that warns those who dare to disturb the resting place of ancient Egyptian kings. It is said that anyone who enters the sacred tombs, stealing treasures or desecrating the dead, will meet a tragic and mysterious fate. But is this just a myth, or is there a real, supernatural force at play? Tonight, we uncovered the eerie stories of those who have fallen victim to this ancient curse. The deserts of Egypt hold many secrets, but none are as feared as the hidden tombs of the pharaohs. Beneath the golden sands, ancient burial chambers remain sealed for thousands of years, guarded by hieroglyphs warning intruders of impending doom. Imagine walking through a dark passageway, the flickering light of your torch casting shadows on the walls covered in cryptic inscriptions. The air is dry, heavy with the scent of dust and ancient stone. A deep silence fills the tomb except for the occasional whisper of the wind, or perhaps something else lurking in the darkness. The legend of the Curse of the Pharaohs became famous after the discovery of King Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922 by Howard Carter and Lord Carnarvon. Soon after, Lord Carnarvon, the man who financed the excavation, died under mysterious circumstances, a mosquito bite that turned into a deadly infection. Just before his death, the lights in Cairo reportedly flickered and went out. Even more chilling, his dog howled in agony at the exact moment of his passing, and he wasn't the only victim. Over the years, archaeologists, workers, and even visitors connected to the excavation met bizarre and untimely deaths, some by sudden illness, others in accidents too strange to be coincidences. Was it bad luck, or was the ancient curse real? Fast forward to the present day, a team of archaeologists has uncovered a previously unknown tomb deep in the Valley of the Kings. Inside, untouched relics and an eerily preserved mummy lie in eternal slumber. Despite the warnings from local elders, the team proceeds with the excavation. As they enter, one of the team members accidentally knocks over an ancient artifact, shattering it into pieces. The air suddenly turns icy cold. A strange humming noise echoes through the chamber, though no one is speaking. Then, the power cuts out, plunging them into complete darkness. One by one, members of the team begin experiencing horrifying visions, whispers in an unknown language, shadows moving where there should be none. The lead archaeologist wakes up in the middle of the night, unable to move, feeling an unseen presence pressing down on his chest. Days later, the first tragedy strikes. The youngest team member falls ill, his body covered in mysterious lesions. He gasps for air, eyes wide in terror, as if seeing something the others cannot. He dies within 24 hours. Fear spreads among the crew. More accidents follow. Equipment malfunctions, one worker falls from a scaffold to his death. Another is found muttering in ancient Egyptian in his sleep despite never having studied the language. The locals warn them once more, leave now, before it's too late, but the team is determined to uncover the secrets hidden within the tomb even if it means risking their lives. As the archaeologists prepare to open the sarcophagus, an eerie whisper fills the chamber. You should not be here. The candles flicker violently, casting horrific shadows on the walls. Suddenly, the lead archaeologist gasps, clutching his chest, his eyes filled with sheer terror, his last words. Before collapsing, the pharaoh is watching. The screen fades to black, but this is only the beginning. The cursed tomb of Deir el-Medina, deep in the desert sands of Egypt, hidden away from the eyes of the world, lies a place where legends and curses intertwine. A place built not by kings, but by the hands of skilled artisans, those who carved the resting places of pharaohs. It is called Deir el-Medina, and while its walls whisper of great craftsmanship, they also conceal a terrible secret. A curse that has haunted grave robbers for centuries. A curse that may still claim lives today. Luxor, Egypt, present day. Under the blazing Egyptian sun, an archaeological team dusts away layers of sand. Among them is Dr. Rachel Carter, a historian obsessed with ancient curses. We're close, she whispers, her eyes fixed on the hieroglyphs before her. After months of searching, she and her team have uncovered a lost tomb in Deir el-Medina, one that was never meant to be opened. As the entrance is pried open, a gust of stale air rushes out. The torchlight flickers, revealing walls covered in eerie warnings. And at the very center of the chamber lies an untouched sarcophagus, surrounded by golden artifacts. One of the workers grins greedily. Do you know how much this is worth? He mutters, reaching for a golden amulet. But before he can touch it, the ground trembles. A whisper, soft but unmistakable, echoes through the chamber. Leave this place, or suffer the fate of thieves before you. The curse of Deir el-Medina. According to ancient scrolls, the artisans of Deir el-Medina did not just build tombs, they protected them. It is said that they crafted spells and traps meant to punish those who disturbed the dead. Warnings were carved into stone. Death will come on swift wings to those who desecrate this tomb. Some dismissed these as superstitions, but then came the disappearances. Tomb raiders who entered Deir el-Medina were found days later, their bodies twisted in unnatural positions, their faces frozen in horror. No wounds, no signs of struggle, just the overwhelming stench of death. And now, Dr. Carter and her team had broken the seal of one of these very tombs. That night, as the team celebrates their discovery, one of the workers, Daniel, begins to feel uneasy. He clutches his chest, his breathing grows heavy. Are you okay? Someone asks. He tries to respond, but his eyes widen in terror. His body contorts violently, his limbs twisting at unnatural angles. He lets out a blood-curdling scream. And then, silence. Daniel collapses, his body lifeless. His face is frozen in an expression of unspeakable fear. The team is stunned, unable to comprehend what just happened. Dr. Carter trembles. The curse, it's real. Panic sets in. Some team members flee the site, abandoning their equipment. But Dr. Carter refuses to leave without answers. She rushes back into the tomb, her flashlight flickering. The air is thick and heavy, as if something unseen is watching her. Suddenly, a shadow moves across the chamber wall, the temperature drops, and then, a voice, barely a whisper, echoes from the sarcophagus. You were warned. Dr. Carter turns just in time to see something rise from the darkness. A figure, wrapped in decayed bandages, its hollow eyes locked onto hers. It takes a step forward, and the torches die out. The next morning, the Egyptian authorities arrive to investigate. But they find no trace of the archaeologists, only their abandoned campsite. And the tomb's entrance, which has mysteriously sealed itself shut once again. Carved into the stone are new words that were not there before. Let the dead rest or join them. The ghosts of the pyramids. For over 4,500 years, the Great Pyramid of Giza has stood as a monument to human achievement and mystery. Historians debate how it was built, scientists study its impossible precision. But some believe its true purpose goes far beyond a tomb. Whispers speak of something else within the pyramid, not just the body of a pharaoh, but something still watching. Still waiting. Many who enter never feel the same again. Some never leave at all. The Forbidden Chamber. The year is 1926. Inside the dimly lit corridors of the Great Pyramid, a British archaeologist named Richard Evans leads an excavation team deep into the labyrinth of passageways. The air is thick with dust, and the sound of their boots echoes off the ancient stone walls. They are searching for a hidden chamber, rumored to contain artifacts never before seen by modern eyes. Suddenly, one of the workers stops. His lantern flickers. His breath catches in his throat. Did you hear that? The others pause. Silence, then a whisper. A voice from the darkness. Leave this place. The workers exchange nervous glances. Richard brushes it off. The wind, he says. Nothing more. But deep down, he knows, there is no wind in the tomb. Ancient Egyptian texts warn of the Ka, the life force that lingers after death. The pharaohs were buried with not just riches, but guardian spirits of the workers, slaves, and priests who would protect their ruler for eternity. It is said that those who disturb the pyramid will awaken them, and once awakened they never rest again. The shadow in the tunnel. That night, Richard remains in the tomb, sketching hieroglyphs by candlelight. His workers refuse to stay, fear is in their eyes. As he writes, the air grows colder. The candle flame flickers violently, then goes out. Darkness, silence, then footsteps, soft, barefoot, coming closer. He reaches for his flashlight, hands trembling. He turns it on and freezes. A figure stands at the end of the tunnel. Draped in tattered linen, its face hidden beneath a burial mask. Not a statue, not human. And then it moves. Richard stumbles backward, his breath quick and shallow. The figure steps closer. The air is filled with a low, guttural whisper, a language not spoken for thousands of years. Then the walls begin to shake. The stone passage narrows around him. The entrance gone, he is trapped. A cold hand grabs his shoulder. The last thing he sees before the light fades is the face beneath the mask. A decayed, hollow face. Skin shriveled, eyes empty, and then nothing. The next morning, the workers return. They find Richard's journal, left open on the ground. But Richard, gone. His body is never found. Locals whisper that he joined the spirits of the pyramid. That his soul, like the others before him, is now bound to its walls forever. Even today, visitors claim to hear strange whispers in the dark tunnels. Shadows flicker where there should be none. Some say, if you listen closely, you can still hear a voice, a man's voice, begging to be let out. The tomb of Tutankhamun. In the scorching deserts of Egypt, hidden beneath layers of sand and time, lies a legend that has terrified generations. A tale of riches beyond imagination and a curse that brings only death. This is the story of the tomb of Tutankhamun, one of history's greatest discoveries, and one of its most chilling mysteries. But was it just a series of coincidences, or was something more sinister at play? Scene setting: Valley of the Kings, 1922. The year is 1922. The world watches in awe as British archaeologist Howard Carter and his team uncover a stairway deep in the Valley of the Kings. The entrance, untouched for over 3,000 years, bears the royal seal of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. A tense silence fills the air as Carter carefully chisels away the stone, revealing a narrow passage. He raises a candle and peers inside. The flickering light reflects off golden statues, chariots, and treasures fit for a god. "This is it," Carter whispers. The tomb of a forgotten king, untouched by time. But the moment of triumph is short-lived. Inscribed at the entrance, ancient hieroglyphs form a warning. Death shall come on swift wings to those who disturb the tomb of the pharaoh. The men laugh nervously. Surely, it's just an old superstition, right? The legend, the pharaoh's curse. For centuries, the Egyptians believed that their pharaohs were gods on earth, and that their souls required protection in the afterlife. To guard their eternal rest, tombs were filled with deadly traps, hidden poisons, and curses. One legend spoke of an unseen force, a vengeful spirit that would haunt those who dared to defile the sacred burial sites. Skeptics dismissed these tales as myths, but what happened next would shock the world. Build up, the deaths begin. Just months after the tomb's opening, Lord Carnarvon, the wealthy sponsor of the expedition, suddenly falls gravely ill. A mosquito bite on his cheek becomes infected. Fever takes over his body, and within days, he is dead. At that very moment, all the lights in Cairo mysteriously go out. The press goes wild. The curse of the pharaoh claims its first victim. Headlines spread fear across the world, but Carnarvon is only the beginning. Soon, more members of the expedition fall one by one. Arthur Mace, Carter's assistant, dies of a sudden respiratory illness. Richard Bethel, Carter's secretary, is found smothered in his bed under mysterious circumstances. Hugh Evelyn White, a British archaeologist, writes a strange note before taking his own life. His message: "I have succumbed to a curse." Even those not directly involved with the dig meet horrifying fates. Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, the man who performed the first X-ray on Tutankhamun's mummy, drops dead unexpectedly. Within a few years, over 20 people linked to the tomb are dead. A coincidence, or something far more terrifying? Climax: the ominous discovery. Years later, scientists re-examine Tutankhamun's remains. Under the golden mask, they make a shocking discovery: a deep wound on the pharaoh's cheek, in the exact same spot where Lord Carnarvon had been bitten before his death. Was it just a bizarre coincidence, or did the young pharaoh's spirit take vengeance on those who disturbed him? And if the curse is real, could it still be claiming victims today? Conclusion: a haunting warning. Even decades later, the story of Tutankhamun's curse continues to haunt archaeologists and historians alike. Some believe science can explain the death's toxic mold, ancient bacteria, or psychological paranoia. But others, they refuse to enter the tomb even today. Because deep within the sands of Egypt, where the pharaohs still sleep, some doors are meant to stay closed forever.
If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Mystical Tales, so you won't miss out on more eerie and thrilling tales in the future. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.